Picture this. It's a Friday night, your phone buzzes, someone's invited you out. A party, a gathering, something social. And instead of feeling excited, you feel this weird mix of dread and relief. Relief that you have a reason not to go. You sit with it for a second, maybe you even feel guilty, and then you decline. You close the app, sink into your couch, and breathe. Like, actually breathe. And the strange part? That breath feels like the first real one you've taken all week. Now here's the thing nobody talks about. That feeling, that relief, it's not laziness. It's not you being antisocial. It's not even a personality quirk you need to fix in therapy. It might be your nervous system doing exactly what it learned to do to keep you safe. And once you understand why, it changes everything. I'm not here to romanticize isolation. I'm also not here to shame you for needing space. What I want to do today is walk you through what's actually happening in your brain and body when you pull away from people. Because there's a difference between choosing peace and disappearing out of pain. And most of us have never been taught to tell the one from the other. So let's get into it. There's this concept called the Polyvagal Theory, developed by neuroscientist Dr. Porges. And honestly, the first time I came across it, it felt like someone had finally given me the manual to my own nervous system. The basic idea is this. Your nervous system doesn't just have two settings, calm and freaking out. It has a third one, a deep, ancient, almost reptilian mode that kicks in not when you're panicking, but when you've been drained for too long. Porges calls it the dorsal vagal response. Think of it as your body's emergency shutdown protocol. When social interaction has repeatedly costing more than it's given you, when you've been the peacekeeper, the emotional sponge, the one who always reads the room while nobody reads yours, your nervous system eventually just pulls back. Not in a dramatic breakdown kind of way, quietly, slowly, like a city going dark street by street. And what does that feel like from the inside? Honestly, it can feel like relief. The noise goes down, the obligation to perform goes away. You stop bracing for the next mood shift, and in that stillness, something exhales in you. Not because you hate people, but because your system finally got a moment where it didn't have to work overtime. Here's where I want you to really sit with this. That withdrawal isn't a character flaw, it's a survival response. Your nervous system is incredibly smart, it's just also incredibly literal. It doesn't distinguish between this person is exhausting and all people are exhausting. It just catalogs the pattern, connection costs a lot, and starts building walls. Now those walls, let's talk about where they actually come from. Murray Bowen, one of the founding figures of family systems therapy, described something he called emotional cutoff, and it's one of the most quietly devastating concepts I've come across. Emotional cutoff isn't about cold people or people who don't feel things. It's actually the opposite. It's what happens when someone has felt too much, too unpredictably, usually in childhood, and has learned that closeness comes with a price tag. Think about growing up in a home where the emotional atmosphere could shift without warning, where you had to become a tiny meteorologist of moods, scanning your parents' face the second they walked through the door, calibrating yourself to whatever the emotional weather was that day. Over time, your nervous system didn't just get good at reading rooms, it started associating proximity with unpredictability, love with threat. The closer someone gets, the higher the potential cost. And so the solution your young brain landed on was brilliant in a brutal kind of way. Keep a safe distance from everyone. Not because you don't want connection, but because somewhere along the way, you learned that connection has a habit of detonating. This is why so many people who pull away from social life aren't actually misanthropes. They're people who loved hard and got burned enough times that the equation stopped making sense. Their isolation isn't indifference, it's self-preservation with a heavy price. And look, here's where it gets even more interesting, because not all withdrawal is the same. There's actually a crucial difference that the Harvard Study on Adult Development, a 75-year longitudinal study tracking hundreds of people across their entire lives, kept coming back to. The researchers found that what mattered for well-being wasn't how many relationships people had, it was the quality of the ones they did have. Two people can both spend Friday nights alone. One of them is experiencing what we might call solitude, a chosen peaceful presence with themselves, a kind of sanctuary. The other is experiencing loneliness, an aching absence of real connection, the feeling of being invisible even in a room full of people. Same behavior, completely different internal experience, completely different impact on health and happiness. The people who thrived in that Harvard study weren't the ones with the biggest social calendars. They were the ones who knew the difference between relationships that filled them and relationships that drained them, and had the clarity or the courage to choose accordingly. So if your instinct to pull away is less about fear and more about protecting something real inside you, that's not pathology, that's wisdom. The question worth asking yourself honestly is, which one is mine? But here's the part that gets more complicated, and I say this with a lot of care because this is where a lot of people get stuck. There's a version of social withdrawal that starts as self-protection and slowly becomes something else, something harder to leave. The CDC has flagged what it calls pathological social isolation, not occasional solitude, not healthy boundaries, but a sustained, fear-driven disconnection that starts to wall you off from life itself. And the health data attached to it is sobering. We're talking a 29% increased risk of heart disease, a 32% increased risk of stroke, a measurable physical toll on the body from prolonged social disconnection. Because here's the thing about human beings, we are literally wired for connection. Your nervous system doesn't just prefer it, it requires it to regulate properly. When social connection disappears for long enough, your body doesn't just get sad, it starts to operate in a state of chronic low-grade stress. Inflammation goes up, sleep gets worse, the immune system starts to slip. So the walls that once kept you safe can over time start to suffocate the very system they were protecting. This isn't a guilt trip. I want to be really clear about that. If you've needed those walls, you needed them. But there's a difference between building a wall and living inside one forever. One is a response, the other becomes a prison. Now, and I find this genuinely fascinating, people who've gone through this kind of emotional history often develop something most people never really get, a kind of social superpower, if you use it right. A 2023 study in Nature Neuroscience found that early emotional stress can actually heighten the brain's threat detection systems in ways that become incredibly useful later in life. If you grew up having to read people carefully just to feel safe, your frontal lobe got a serious workout. You learned to process social information at a higher resolution than most people. You could spot the fake compliment, the love bombing pattern, the subtle shift in someone's energy that signals something is off, often before anyone else in the room caught it. University of Iowa researchers studying social decision-making found that people who are highly selective about their relationships aren't being paranoid. They're running a more sophisticated social filter. They're doing in real time what most people never bother to do at all. Asking whether a connection actually adds something to their life, or if it just fills the silence. The problem isn't the sensitivity. The problem is when that sensitivity gets so loud, so hyperactive, that it starts flagging everything as a threat. Even safe people feel dangerous. Even good connections feel like they'll eventually cost too much. That's when the superpower tips into self-sabotage. So where does that leave us? It leaves us here. If you recognized yourself anywhere in this, in the Friday night couch exhale, in the emotional meteorologist, in the relief that sometimes tastes a little too much like loneliness, you're not broken, you're not weird. You're someone whose nervous system has been doing its job, maybe a little too well, for a very long time. The work, and I know the work sounds heavy, but stay with me. The work isn't to force yourself back into the social world and perform connection until it feels real. That never works. The work is to slowly, carefully start teaching your nervous system that not every person is a storm, that some spaces are actually safe, that some people can be close without it costing you everything. That starts small, embarrassingly small sometimes. One honest conversation, one person you let a little closer than usual, one moment where you notice you're bracing for impact and you choose to stay anyway. You don't have to tear down the walls, you just have to put a window in one. If this video made you feel seen even for a second, I want you to know that is exactly why I make these. Because the stuff that lives in the quiet, the stuff we don't say out loud, that's the stuff that needs the most light. Subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. We go deep here, not in a heavy, hopeless way, in a finally someone said it way. Hit the bell so you don't miss the next one. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, someone who's been a little too quiet lately, a little too gone, send it to them. Sometimes the right words at the right time are the whole thing. I'll see you in the next one.